well, think about like the last book that you bought. You and I buy a lot of books, Laurel,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we have been looking at a lot of marketing books lately just because your new book is coming out, going through that. I've got another book that I'm working on, and we're just kind of seeing what's out there. We don't just stop at one book. We're going to continue to buy more and more books, and sometimes we'll buy, I bought 7 books by the same author just to see how he did his series, and that was just last week. So if that guy hadn't diversified, I would have just stopped at one.
And I think that's the benefit is when you create one product, you're building trust with your audience. If they like it, they connect with you, they like what you have to offer. And then if you give them a different product, another product, they already have built that trust with you and they're more likely to buy than if you just find somebody random or if you don't have another product.
Well, sure. You also set yourself up as an expert when you've got more than one product, because who's going to have more than one product? An expert.
But how does Greg know, for instance, like, is his product that's doing pretty well, is that a To Kill a Mockingbird product or is that a brownie pan product? How does he know which one it is?
I don't know. That's a good question. Most of the time, though, I think that we could always look at To Kill a Mockingbird or the very first Beatles album or something that continues to sell, and we could use that as an example. We could say, hey, well, To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee's doing okay doing just one book, and the Beatles were doing okay just on that one album, even if they had never released another album. They would have been just fine. But I think that those are the kind of things that give us a false sense of security that doing something just once is going to provide for a lifetime. Most of the time it doesn't happen. I've seen a lot of guys. Here's another great example of not diversifying. I see a lot of guys that go with one type of promotion. I know a lot of guys, for example, that used SEO, and then Google will change what they're doing, and you're going from 100,000 visitors to maybe 10,000 visitors instantly, like in one day. And that's why you want diversification. You want it not only in the products that you have, but in your distribution methods, in your promotion and marketing methods. You really should have it everywhere, although we're specifically talking on this podcast, this episode, about products. But it's really something to think about all throughout your business.
Well, are there any cons of going wide, or have we hit on most of those?
The cons of going wide, I think, these are really double-edged swords. I think that Greg, for example, if he's putting his name behind one single product, people are starting to know him as the expert, as we just mentioned, even if he doesn't do the series, which we'd recommend. Now, when you're going with 500 books, your name is not on all of them, using ghostwriters for reasons we've already explained. And because of that, you can't walk away from that and really have any kind of residual benefit. You can say, I released 500 books one time, but nobody's really going to care, as opposed to somebody like Greg. If he had released just maybe 10 good books, even if the books went away, he's going to still be considered an expert, and he can move into various other things. I'll give you an example, and I can use myself in this. We mentioned the book that I have called Six Figure Musician. My name is on it. I've got some other music business books, but the way this podcast exists and the way that I've been doing other things that are non-music was because non-musicians started to read that music book and started to look at my work and what I've done to help people get an audience, to help people make money with their ideas, to help them build a following and sell things. And because my name is on it, they could see how that would work, and I'm the expert. Well, I can transfer that expertise into another genre, and that's how a real career is built.
So I think there's wide and there's like super wide, because I think of wide as kind of like Greg takes his product and then he starts creating other equally as good products. And that's kind of diversifying as well. But it sounds like your Kindle guy with his 500 books, that's like super wide with all these pen names and different genres. Like I see those as kind of two separate things.
Well, and we have to mention that though, because that's common in the internet marketing world, in the blogging world. There was a time when I had over 800 websites, for example.
Wow.
Ghostwriters, all sorts of automated systems, and we just had basically employees that would do nothing but design websites, and we put them out there, and each website made a little bit of money. Some of them made a lot of money, and it was not really a whole lot different than what the Kindle guy was doing. Mm-hmm. And it works for a time, but as I mentioned, something like Google, that wasn't diversified at all because most of the traffic was coming from Google. We couldn't go out and promote 800 websites. So what happens when Google changes their mind or Google bans you or something happens? Well, you're in trouble.
And I was interviewing Steve Scott the other day, who is a Kindle guru. Do you know him?
I do. He's on Amazon. I believe he's listed as S.J. Scott, and he has a ton of kind of, what would you say, like get more done, more productivity. I actually purchased one of his books that was about writing books, how to quickly write a book. And the reason I did was because you could see how many books this guy had. I was like, wow, well, maybe I'll learn something from him.
And he does books. I mean, I think his main genres are Kindle publishing and internet business and, you know, you talked about time management, things like that. But when I was interviewing him on my other podcast, he was saying his main takeaway was, I asked if he could do this whole Kindle thing all over again. And he said, well, yeah, if I could do it over again, I would do something differently. He said, I would put everything under one genre with my name on it. And unlike what your guy with the 500 different Kindle books is doing, because he's like, what's so important is to build a platform with what you're doing. And what he does is in all his books, he sends people back to his website and back to his mailing list. And that's what's helped him build his business. And every time he has a new book, he can email it out to his fans and his audience.
Yeah, and it instantly gets it out there, instantly starts ranking on Amazon. It gets in the people who purchase this also purchase this, so they help do your marketing for you. Yeah, that's a very smart move.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's all I got for this one. Laurel, anything else you want to add?
Well, I think for Greg, to go back to his question, is I think if you find something that works for you, like if this product, it seems like his product's doing okay. If it's working for you, if you decide to create another product, create a product that's on par with your first product. Because whatever you're doing something right. And I've seen so many authors, like they write a killer first book that they put all this time and energy and money and effort into, and it does really well. And then they write kind of like a throwaway book to follow it up just because
they start skating.
Yeah, because they want to get something else out quickly. You know, there's a lot of pressure on them probably because the first thing did really well, but it doesn't connect. It does not connect with their audience as well as the first one because it doesn't have the same energy and time and all that put into it. Yeah. So I would say if something worked, go with that. If you want to create other products, create them on the same level with the same amount of effort that you put into the first product and don't skimp on it. And then, you know, I think trying another product and trying to diversify a little bit, I think that's a good idea.
And one of the things that you can do once you do have that first product, you're starting to build an audience around it, ask people what they want. They'll tell you what they want, and that will help you. You don't have to do a lot of the guesswork that you would have on the front end, although I had a feeling that Greg got into that niche with what he wrote that we didn't read here, that he was already a part of that market, and that can certainly help.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you do, you know, have products, like a couple products within one genre, you know, something we didn't talk about was marketing that product. You're better able to market that product. And maybe you mentioned this than if you just go really wide and have all these products. You can't market that. You talked about Google was the only way you could use and get out something like that, your 800 websites or whatever.
Yeah, that's a search engine thing for this guy with the 500 books. He's just hoping to throw it all out there and hopefully somebody will stumble upon it and throw it in their cart.
Exactly.
And they are. They're taking one book per month and buying it.
Yeah, and so if you go narrow and deep, you're better able to market what you do and get it out there and build a platform. And as you said, David, become the expert. So
and that's where the real money is.
That's what I think. But obviously other things work, but we're kind of going the narrow and deep route. So that's what we'd probably recommend. But other people like your guy, you know, have gone the shallow and wide route, and that works as well. But I think for Greg, since he's already kind of on the narrow and deep route, like stay on that route.
Yeah. I think finding that middle ground, that's what the most successful people that I've seen. You see very few Harper Lees with the books like To Kill a Mockingbird. You see, well, you don't really hear about the guys that are going really wide because they don't have their name on it. Mm-hmm. And the successes that you do hear are the guys that are somewhere in the middle. Certainly people like us, more than one book, more than one podcast, more than one whatever they're doing, but it's all in the same genre, it's related, and it's something that the same people would like. So That's it for today. Laurel, thank you very much. And tell them where we can talk to each other.
Talk to each other. Well, I would tell them to go to redpodcast.com and sign up for our upcoming contest, which is actually starting in July. We are giving away some cool stuff, David.
We are. We have iPads for you to listen to the podcast.
Yep, we have iPods and
Kindles. Got all sorts of cool stuff. We've got audiobooks. We've got things that'll help you with your podcasting, things that'll help you to make more money, marketing help, all sorts of cool stuff. So go to redpodcast.com, and if you've got a question like Greg, there's information on how to get in touch with us there. So until next time, redpodcast.com. Thank you, Laurel, and I'll see you on the next one.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.